Hello,
Yes,
good
ma'am.
afternoon, all of you. So today we are in the third session of day 4, and we have with us Dr. Mr. Deepak Kumar from RDCI SAIL and Dr. N. Neogi. He is also from RDCI SAIL. So I'll be introducing them to you. First of all, the title of the talk is Automation Systems in Steel Industry, Challenges and Opportunities. About Dr. N. Neogi. He has done BTech and MTech from IIT Kharagpur and PhD from BIT Misra. He worked with Larsen and Toubro Limited in the India Fossils and India Coils and Steel Authority of India (SAIL). He was the executive director of RDCIS and SSO of SAIL before retiring in 2010. He was the visiting faculty at Birla Institute of Technology, Misra, from 2011 to 16. He has co-authored a book and published and presented many technical papers in Indian and international journals and conferences. He is also co-inventor of 3 patents. He has featured in the book 100 Managers in Action by noted management consultant T.V. Rao. He is a senior member of IEEE USA, fellow of the Institute of Engineers, India, and life member of Computer Society of India. About Mr. Deepak Kumar, he is GM Power and Control in R&D Center of Iron and Steel SAIL. His qualification is BE from Applied Electronics and Instrumentation Engineering from IIT Rourkela. He has total experience of 25 years in automation projects for performance improvement of integrated steel plants. His area of interests are PLC controllers, drives, rolling mill automation, and image processing. He has presented and published 25 papers. He has total 20 patents and copyrights under his name. I welcome both of you, sir, in this Atal FDP. Now about the participants. There are total 200 participants who have registered for this FDP, out of which 25 participants are from Andhra Pradesh, 46 are from Tamil Nadu, 10 from Karnataka, 13 from Uttar Pradesh, 24 from Maharashtra, and from all the other states there are less than 10 participants. And the participants are from various fields of engineering. This is all about participants. I welcome you, sir. And now over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Can I? Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Deepak Kumar, as ma'am said. So we will be talking about automation systems in steel industry, challenges and opportunities. The roadmap to this presentation is process flow of an integrated steel plant, because I assume that most of you don't know about steel plant. Performance improvement in steel plants and contributing factors, process familiarization and barriers to automation in steel plant, and some of the key processes like blast furnace, coke making, steel making, continuous casting, rolling. Then enabling automation technologies for performance improvement of steel industry. There will be 3 examples. The new and improved steel plant mechanization with automation as an enabler. So how the new technologies have changed automation and the affected process itself. Then again, we will take back the same examples of key processes: blast furnace, coke making. The role of automation in energy, environment, and asset management, and automation trends, industry 4.0. Iron was discovered in 2000 BC and first cast iron product was 800, 700 BC in China. Cast steel was first produced in India in 500 AD, but technology was lost subsequently. Iron age started between 1500 to 1800 BC. This is a significant figure. World annual steel production in 2020 was 1700 million tons. And this figure is more than all the metals put together produced. So steel is the majority if you talk about metal. China ranks #1 in the world with around 1000 million tons, and India produced 130 million tons in 2020. Process flow of an integrated steel plant. If you look at integrated steel plant from outside, the most important process where raw material is converted into iron, liquid iron, is blast furnace. So the blast furnace is the most important process in any integrated steel plant. Now, in blast furnace, you have inputs coming from coke ovens as coke, raw material plants as iron ore, and sinter plant as sinters. So these are the three key ingredients that is fed to blast furnace. Blast furnace converts iron, raw materials into liquid iron. Then this liquid iron contains a lot of carbon, about 4%. This is brought to basic oxygen furnace, and oxygen is blown, carbon is reduced, and steel is made. Around 1% carbon, less than that. Once it is liquid steel, that is the output of basic oxygen furnace, it is brought to continuous casting, where it is converted into slabs. So we will be talking about this in detail. And then these slabs, blooms, or billets, the output of continuous casting, is brought to rolling mills, hot rolled into various shapes. It can be flat, it can be long, say rail, structural, or it can be sent to, after hot rolling, it is sent to cold rolling for further thinning based on the application. It can be again processed for, say, sheets, GP sheets, GC sheets, that kind of thing. The process flow, steel plant process can be broadly divided into two categories. Chemical processes, mainly blast furnace, coke making, primary steel making, secondary steel making, and physical process based on works on metal works on steel, that is continuous casting, rolling, and finishing. Here, no chemical process is done. It is kind of shaping and rolling and forming. Physical processes are visible, and progress of the process can be observed directly, and therefore may be controlled more easily. Chemical processes, reactions take place inside a container under pressure, at high temperature, etc. Direct observation is not possible. Say, for example, blast furnace. We depend on indirect observations, particularly the status of the output. Processes up to steel making lag behind in terms of measurement of parameters and their controllability compared to, say, the rolling process. The rolling process, you can see things changing. A process is very much visible. Speed is very high, but you can control it. More precision is required. Next, sir. During last 20 years, there was breathtaking progress in measurement. Okay. The last line is being covered from that toolbar. I am not able to proceed. So there will be difficult. No problem. If you go through the process improvement in last 4-5 decades, the blast furnace productivity from 1 tons per meter cube per day to 2.5 tons per meter cube per day. So this is the kind of productivity improvement that blast furnace has seen, and the maximum is reported as 3.5 tons per meter cube per day. In India, it is normally 1 to 2.5. Coke oven battery height from 6 meters to 8 meters. This has gone up. BOF converter size, where from iron, liquid iron to steel is produced, but the size of converter has gone up from 200 tons to 400 tons. And wire rod mill speed has gone up from 70 meter per second to huge 120 meter per second. You just think of a process where material is moving at 120 meter per second and you have to control it. The contributing factors for performance improvement. So it's not only electrical or automation, but there have been several breakthrough innovations in core technologies of steel production. Metallurgical, mechanical, where rolling etc. comes into picture, electrical, chemical, civil, and allied. But in particular, we have seen that electrical engineering and IT has contributed very significantly. Alongside that, developments in modeling and simulation of mechanical, chemical, and metallurgical process have been unprecedented. So, innovations in mechanization and automation have leapfrogged mainly due to demands for better productivity, requirement of stringent quality, consistency, and high probability. Automation and IT have ensured enhanced level of process control without the development of operation, without involvement of operators. Actually, because of automation, the number of people involved in the steel industry for making same ton of steel has drastically gone down. As far as possible, processes are, we try to make it semi-auto or auto manless operator. What is mechanization? Mechanization is a series of steps indicating basic to advanced forms of a mechanical society. So as we go down from hand muscle power, hand tools, power hand tools, to power tools activated by workpiece, measurement, then process recording, automated machine action altered through measurement, segregation reaction according to measurement, and selection of appropriate action cycles, correcting performance during operation. So as measurement and control takes over, the complexity goes on increasing, but then the control over process keeps on increasing, and this is the mechanization, how it has developed over time. Use of machines either wholly or in a part to replace human or animal labor is mechanization. Mechanization requires human participation to provide information or instruction. After 1900, factories were electrified and electric motors and controls were used to perform more complicated mechanical operations. This resulted in proliferation of mechanized process to manufacture almost all goods. The effect of efficiency, you can see from level it is 1 to 5.5%, where for IC engines it is 20% to 50%, and electric motors is above 90%. What is automation? A wide range of technologies that reduce human intervention in process. Automation has been achieved by various means, including mechanical, hydraulic, pneumatic, electrical, electronic devices, computers. The paradox of automation is the more efficient the automated system, the more significant is the human contribution. And Different type of traditional automation tools that we use are single loop controllers, PCS, PLC, instrumentation, motion control devices, DCS, HMI, and recently, not very recently, from quite a long time, IT, ANN, and RPA. A new field which is a subset of AI, cognitive automation, is an emerging field, and we hope that Industry 5.0 will be based on this only. Automation of clerical tasks and workflows. This relies on natural language processing, real-time computing, machine learning, big data analytics, evidence-based learning. The term automation has come into wide use since 1947, when Ford Motors established an automation department. So there were several industrial revolutions, and we know about first, second. The third industrial revolution started in 1950s, maybe up to 1990s, and this benefited mostly to the third world. There was a shift to digital electronics, rapid adoption of digital computers, rise of IT industry, mobile phones, and internet. The fourth industrial revolution, that is Industry 4.0, this originated from Germany, and this uses a concept of cyber physical systems. There are various technologies that it employs, and among them prominent are artificial intelligence, robotics, nanotech, quantum computing, biotechnology, IoTs, blockchain, video analytics. And most of these technologies are being applied to steel industry. Maybe some are in preliminary stage. 3D printing, mobile internet, next generation genomics, and energy storage are the important part of industrial revolution, Industry 4.0, where we will see a lot of developments. With technology becoming embedded, the line between human and machines are blurring. Now the technology has entered more into our society, in our life. But then the question is, are we going to lose our independence? So this is the slide which shows main technologies of Industry 4, and is 3D printing, AR and VR, space technology, artificial intelligence, supercomputing, Internet of Things, blockchain, and distributed ledger. Recently, Tata Steel has done something on this blockchain with HSBC. Now, process familiarization and barriers to plants in steel plant. So, why automation is so difficult in steel plant? We will take example one by one. Many black box processes. The process can be visualized by human senses. If visible only from a distance, then automation equipment exposed to high temperature. General ambient temperature is 5 to 10 degrees centigrade higher than the normal environment temperature, and it is dusty. Reliable operations in issue. Then equipment outside control room require mechanical protection against ingress of foreign material and vapor. So we have to see IP ratings for all automation elements that we employ. Next, sir. So talking about blast furnace, as I said, the inputs are iron ore and sinter plant. It is about 60 meter tall, and the output is hot metal, which is called also pig iron. Here carbon is about 4%, and this requires extensive infrastructure, because I said that in blast furnace we have several inputs, and all those are big plants. coke ovens for making coke, sinter plant for making sinter, stoves that are used for heating air and fed to blast furnace to 2 years from down below, conveyor systems for raw material handling, gas cleaning plant, etc. So it's a multivariate process subject to interinfluencing variables. Complex chemical reactions at high temperature around 2300 centigrade and pressure 1.5 to 2.5 atmosphere. This takes place and it progresses both vertically downwards and radially outwards at different levels differently. So there are several parameters that needs to be monitored for proper functioning of blast furnace, or say efficient functioning of blast furnace. That is temperature and pressure distribution vertically, temperature and pressure distribution radially, burden height, etc. And the challenges are reliable sensors and instruments to operate in such hostile ambient. Proper installation and maintenance are the key. Next, sir. Then another input to blast furnace is a coke oven, a product from coke oven, that is carbonized coal. This is a thermal distillation process. Coking coal is heated above 600 degrees centigrade in the absence of oxygen, and the volatile components evaporate, leaving behind hydrocarbons. So coke oven gas is used as a fuel in downstream steel making process. Means all the furnaces, etc., and at several places, this coke oven gas and blast furnace gas are used as fuel. So this is a huge infrastructure. You can see 20 to 100 adjacent ovens, height 6 to 8 meters. Single oven size is 11 to 18-meter long, and 0.35 to 5 meter, 0.5 meter width. The cooking temperature is time is 15 to 18 hours, and a temperature around 1100. So you can think of the kind of operation and infrastructure that is required here, and proportionally we need the automation systems. Rugged. Now what are the barriers? Ovens are charge discharge in a sequence depending on cooking time and cook offtake for blast furnace. So this demands complicated scheduling when you will charge and when you will take out, so that there is no deficiency of material in blast furnace. It is done, heating control is done in groups. Temperature measurement of heating flue walls can only be done during pushing of coke, but you have to monitor the process continuously. During extraction of coke from an oven, alignment of the pusher car and the guide car. When you are pushing, so the guide car is the other way of the oven, has to be aligned. So you have to have some automation alignment system for this. So there are so many complex operations, hostile environment, and your automation along with alignment and scheduling and proper instrumentation for heat and pressure should work and work 24/7. The next process is primary steel making, where iron is converted into steel. Carbon-rich molten iron is made into steel by blowing oxygen through a lance of a supersonic speed, a lance at supersonic speed. Converter vessel is then tilted to tap low carbon steel into ladle for secondary processing. Further fine-tuning the chemistry. BOF process eliminated very long duration open hearth process. Now converter takes a charge of up to 400 ton and completes the process in 40 minutes. This was 10 to 12 hours in open hearth furnace, but then the open hearth technology is quite old now. There is combined blowing here, blowing from top as oxygen and inert gas from bottom. So that requires special facility. Next. There are more than 3,500 different grades of steel for various applications. based on chemistry, based on physical properties, etc., etc. The purpose of secondary steel making is to make better quality various grades of steel, where deoxidation is done, that is removal of oxygen by killing process. Alloying, where you add some alloying elements to obtain diverse properties. Then microcleanness, removal of non-metallic inclusion to improve the microstructure of the steel. So this secondary steel making is another process which is after steel making, and this is to improve the quality and make various grades. Now this is a very precise process where vacuum is created in a ladle furnace, and some oxygen removal kind of killing or difficult processes are done to further clean the steel or make newer grades. This requires huge automation systems and precise electronic system, automation system. Next one. In steel making, primary or secondary, process critical operations with in between tilting of vessel for steel sampling and chemical analysis. So this is a typical case of in operation measurement. Flow and pressure of oxygen is time varying, depends on in process chemical analysis. Charge calculation depends on many diverse parameters. Requires in bath measurement of oxygen and carbon continuously to make special grades. Requires sophisticated image processing or other techniques to check part of slag flow. When we pour slag liquid steel out of furnace, vessel, then slag also comes out. So there is a point when you have to stop. So this portion is done through image processing. Operators are required to look at flow of steel during tapping for slag detection. Means whenever slag is there, you have to stop, which is a health hazard. Offtake gas composition measurement during blowing is required for automation. Almost same thing for secondary steel making, but it is more precise. Next. Now, continuous casting. If the process of molten steel is solidified while moving into billet bloom of slab, process of ingot casting totally eliminated. Earlier there used to be ingot casting from molten steel, but now it is solidified in a continuous caster directly into billets bloom or slab. So molten steel flows from ladle to turnish to water cooled mold. Molten steel solidifies against the water cooled copper mold walls to form a solid shell. Dry rolls continuously withdraw the cell from mold. Below the mold exit, the solidifying steel shell acts as a container to support the remaining liquid steel. Means the liquid steel, as you can see in the figure, or maybe we have another figure, it comes down to almost horizontal level. Solidified strand is torch cut into slabs, blooms, and billets. This is done online. This is a typical slab caster size with casting speed 1.4 meter per minute. There are several types of caster machines. Okay, sir. Next. Now, barriers to automation for this continuous caster. Initially, it was not that demanding, but modern casting machines can produce wide variety of shapes and cross sections with automation. Tundis. Tundis is the second from top that you can see yellow. In yellow, continuous temperature measurement requires special refractive coated probes, which is dipped inside hot metal at 1600 degrees centigrade. So you have to take temperature of hot metal, which is at 1600 centigrade, and that too continuous. Dissolved hydrogen and O2 concentration measurement in liquid steel. Hot metal level measurement is very complex. So we employ electromagnetic level measurement. Then flux thickness measurement. This is again very complicated thing. Next, sir. Mold level measurement used to be an area of concern, but now we have radioactive level measurement systems. Liquid steel flow estimation was not possible earlier. Now we have ultrasound Doppler velocimetry. Heat flux measurement in mold requires large number of thermocouples to be embedded in mold. Hundreds of them. A secondary cooling. Some conditions problems which exist inside the spray chamber are high temperature, high pressure of the water sprays, high pressure of the steam, strand non-contact length and speed measurement. Talking about rolling after continuous casting, when it takes a shape, bloom, billet, or slab, it is brought to rolling. So invention of rolling dates back to drawings of Leonardo da Vinci that you can see in the figure. This is a metal deformation process where the material is pressed between two oppositely rotating rollers to reduce thickness. The roll stand holds the pairs of rolls together. So there is a rolling stand in between. For simplicity, I am saying there is a pair of rolls, and your thick metal comes in, and thinner metal goes out after rolling. Now, there are two kinds of rolling: hot rolling and cold rolling. Hot rolling temperature is above recrystallization temperature. This produces more tonnage than any other manufacturing process. The main products of hot roll are shape, bars, rods, rails, and sections, flat, hot strip, and scale. The cold rolling, temperature below recrystallization temperature. So it is normally at environment temperature only. Cold rolling processes the most tonnage out of all cold working processes. Cold rolling products are mainly strips and sheets. Thickness can be 0.0 to 5 mm. That is the minimum. Hot rolling process is visible but extremely fast. The slab or bloom is first brought to furnace, reheating furnace. There it is heated, soaked, and then it is brought to hot rolling mills, which has several stands. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stands. Here there are 5 stands. Each stand reduces it by some percentage. Here, since the material is at very high temperature, say above 1100 degrees centigrade, 1100 degrees centigrade, process is visible, but it is extremely fast. The environment is hostile, temperature is high, there are a lot of vapor, dust, and EMI. Inter-stand space is very small, but many sensors are required to be placed there. Instruments mostly require massive protection and cooling. Instruments are to be protected against accidental contact with rolled material during operation. Installations to account for moving of heavy equipment by cranes, maintenance space for production systems. Cabling cooling arrangements at the shop floor pose severe challenges. Sensors, actuators, accuracy, repeatability is very highly important. Next, sir. In contrast, cold rolling, it is not material is not hot. but most of the constraints are similar to that of hot rolling. Here also we have shown a picture of 5 stands. Ambient temperature is comparatively lower. Sensor actuator accuracy and repeatability requires are much higher. When the speed is much faster than hot rolling. Next. So the difficulties in rolling mill measurement are, there are several things to be changed. Motors, in motors the torque, interstand tension, roll force, strip thickness, shape width, edge position, reheat furnace. Inside reheat furnace, you have to measure temperature, control temperature, pressure, flue gas composition, progress of heating, then coil position on roll table so that it is tracked properly, and the temperatures are at entry and exit temperatures are maintained. Control: automatic gauge and width control, hydraulic gap control, crown and profile control, crop optimization, and thermomechanical rolling. These are the main controls available in rolling mills. There are several areas that need modeling and simulation in rolling mills, that is reheat furnace control, prediction of strip temperature. The strip temperature is extremely important, especially exit temperature. Roll wear prediction for finishing stands of hot strip mill, accelerated cooling of strip. The cooling matters a lot on properties. Crop optimization so that the wastage is minimum. Enabling automation technologies for performance improvement of steel industry. So the traditional automation systems implies a hierarchical control system. Sensors and actuators at the bottom level. Then there are controllers, motors, PLC controllers, DCS, single loop controllers. Then along with that, SCADA, HMI. Above that, simulation, modeling, and even at the top of it, IT. Now digitalization, business process automation. So the traditional elements of automation of sensors, controllers, fieldworks, SCADA, HMI, simulation modeling has some new components now, that is smart and new generation of sensors and actuators, robotics, big data, manufacturing analytics, AI, cloud technology, AR and VR. So these new things are making it exciting and has a lot of opportunity. If you look at the sensors, kind of sensors being utilized, all kinds, mechanical, electrical, thermal, radiation, magnetic, chemical, optical. That's why steel industry employs all types of engineers, all discipline engineers. And parameters of all field are measured here. Magnetic, if you take, then field flux conductivity. Thermal, if you take temperature, heat flow, thermal conductivity, specific heat. Now sensors are changing a lot. Now the new generation of sensors are smart sensors, that those have signal conditioning circuitry internally and can actually have communication link, and more sensors are being brought to the communication link. Sensors with advanced technologies. Piezoelectric transducers, this can be used to measure force, measure acceleration, pressure, acceleration, and many other parameters. Proximity switches, tactile sensors, ultrasonic sensors, capacitive sensors. Some sample of some specific sensors. Photometer, radiation parameter, strain gauges, photoelectric sensors, distance sensors, vision and imaging sensors, particle sensors, motion sensors. So there are several types of sensors directly being used in steel plant. Now the trends in sensor technologies are mostly miniaturization. This have to be less power consuming, improved performance, multiple sensors with small footprints, digitalization, that is intelligence to interpret data, IoT capability, sensor fusion. Now, several sensors are being fused into one. For example, pressure and temperature sensing. Tri-quad sensors is the trend, IoT compatibility, wireless connectivity. The growth areas are for new sensor technologies are pressure, force, temperature, spectroscopy, acoustic, lab-based systems are going online. Actuators are devices that operate something linear or rotary. So energy for movement comes from manual, mechanical, electrical, hydraulic, or pneumatic. New types of actuators have come into picture. The thermal and magnetic actuators. Shape memory alloys. Thermal heat in thermal type, heat produces movement. In magnetic types, field produces movement. There is a wide and powerful range of motions, and these are lightweight. Then electroactive polymers or EAPs, dielectric elastometers, the smart material systems that produce large strains. So there are several types of actuators coming into picture now. Next. Pneumatic actuators and hydraulic actuators, these are used a lot in steel industry. Pneumatic actuators are essential for fire or ignition hazard applications. Now these are better suited for higher force application. Pneumatic diaphragm actuator, piston actuator, pneumatic rack and pinion actuator, various types. And hydraulics are mainly used for bending, lifting, pressing, and moving. These are for harsh operating environment, and these actuators are quite precise. Next. Controllers, as we know, these are the basic requirement for any control system. Single loop controllers, PLCs, and there are several types of PLCs, small, compact, for small applications where I/O requirement is less. Modular PLCs that have common bus and the I/O capabilities can be extensive, mid-size, large size. So there are several types of PLCs based on application we select. Next. Now the where PLC is going? PLC is going towards DCS, and DCS is going towards PLC. So they are merging of functionalities. The microcontroller is programmed, and more features are added. So merging of PLC and a programmable automation controller functionality is the new trend. There are greater programming flexibility and ease, scalability, more memory, smaller sizes, multifunctional, very high speed internet, built-in wireless, web module. There are so many things. Means all the features that were available in any of the controller are being brought to the, or DCS are being brought to the PLC as advanced PLC or in some other name.
Hello. Yes, participants. Mr. Deepak Kumar, he has left for some urgent work. So Dr. N. Yogi, he will be continuing. So he has some problem with his system, so please wait.
Okay, madam.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello, madam.
Yes.
I'm audible. Okay, let me share now.
Yes. Yes, yes, sir.
Just a minute. Yeah, is it visible now?
Not
Yes,
right
sir.
now.
Slide is visible.
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Your
Yes, sir.
video is coming, sir.
Okay. Yes, slide is coming. My voice is coming. So let me continue. All right, madam.
Slide is not visible.
Slide is
But the
visible. It is coming.
Acha, slide is visible. Okay.
participants are sharing slide is visible. Okay, let me continue in that case.
Okay, please
See,
continue.
we are. Good afternoon. I am Niyogi. We are on the controller front, and Deepak has already completed, I think, the a PLC and other single loop controller. So this is distributed control system. We have all know about it. It is basically for items, controlling items in a big plant where things are geographically distributed. So whereas why PLC, we say it is for a particular shop or particular the facility. DCS is generally used for large large plants and factories. These are mainly for the distributed facilities. This is a picture where you are seeing the distributed control system being worked on in a control room, and the structure of distributed control system in terms of various items connected here are shown here. Now we have, I am not going into details of DSP, it is not really possible, it is too complicated to go into detail, but then a general question comes between PLC and DCS. What is, I mean, we are confused, many of us, I'm not talking about the teaching fraternity, I'm talking about even the automation engineers, that whether to use a PLC or DCS, there is a common very problem. So this is a simple comparison. It does not tell you what to use, but it tells you some comparison between PLC and DCS. For example, application-wise, PLC is generally dedicated application, whereas DCS is for complex processes. Architecture-wise, PLC is simple and flexible. Speed of response for PLC is higher, and as it is dedicated for a process that is required also, whereas DCS is much slower comparatively. Scan time for PLC is low. Control for PLC is for specific machines, whereas the DCS is for a plant normally. IOs are, let us say, to the tune of 1,000 numbers in PLC, whereas in DCS it would go into several thousands IOs. Controller type for PLC is centralized, whereas in DCS it is decentralized. Human interaction is minimum required in PLC, but in DCS we require comparatively more interactions because it is a diverse process. Flexibility wise, PLC is less flexible. Programming it wise, PLC is freely programmable, whereas DCS has built-in control functions to be configured. Once configured, it is easy to use. Redundancy wise, additional hardware is required for PLC to bring in redundancy, whereas for DCS, it is a default feature. Cost wise, PLC is less. Now, this is programmable automation controller. It is, you can say, a controller in between PLC and DCS. You can say a controller between PLC and PC, program, or personal computer or programmable, whatever the industrial grade personal computer. This is in between, and it is basically come up. It has come up to do the job of both PLC and DCS by some vendors. It is basically resembles the ordinary computer. It has multitasking features. It has a flexible configuration, and it has an open architecture. A term, supervisory control and data acquisition, SCADA, is very widely used. This is a generic name. It is not an equipment. It is a generic name. It can be attained, that is supervisory control and data acquisition can be basically attained by many devices. Particularly, this term is used for those processes which are basically spread over a very long distance, like say transmission, power and distribution, transmission and distribution pipeline, then power transmission, Then there are very geographically distributed processes where the data link is basically shared data link. For example, microwave, satellite, phone lines. These are the places the term SCADA is generally used. Now, let me come down to enabling automation technologies for performance improvement of steel plants. What I mean is that those technologies which has enabled performance improvement in steel plants, but then they are not specifically for steel plant, they are used everywhere. To start with, let us say modeling and simulation. Actually, this is a continuation. I'm sorry, Deepak started, I forgot the overall title. Modeling and simulation, let me continue. Now, modeling and simulation is very, very important for any process today. For steel plants, earlier it was difficult to do. Now it is possible to do modeling and simulation because of access of information inside a process. This is basically designing any conceptual system, conduct some experiment on the conceptual system, and understand the performance of the system, and then evaluate alternative management strategies and decision making for the to get the final results. Modeling is prerequisite to simulation, and full cycle modeling includes model design and development, and then model verification and validation. The goal of process simulation is basically to establish a safe virtual environment in which each process attributes can be tested and refined across a full range of operating conditions without going into the operation. So it is basically safe. We are playing safe and we are trying to understand the dynamics of the process. Now, in process simulation, those which are offline simulation has several purpose. Training is one of them, operators training. Then mimicking hazardous system operation is a very important requirement for process simulation. Then it is used for design, system design. It is used for exploring beyond limit operation of any plant. And then if you are changing raw material, offline simulation is an excellent tool to understand how the system will behave, and also used for failure cause analysis. Whereas the real-time dynamic modeling and simulation run along with the plant, it monitors and optimizes the plant performance continuously. It tracks performance, it optimizes production, and improves plant controllability. Now, for steel plant modeling and simulation, there are many organizations all over the world who has mastered the various kinds of technologies. Purdue University for a very long period is on modeling and simulation front for steel plant in particular. And you can see this is a partial list, this is not a full list. They are the list of various models they have developed over a period of time. And you can see that many of them deal with blast furnace, which is, I will consider, the most difficult process in steel making, all steel making processes. They have used computerized fluid flow models in many places. Then they have also done modeling for various training purpose, safety training purpose, other training, operators training purpose. And then they have also done modeling for other than blast furnace, other steel processes. They have done FEF, finite element analysis also. Many models are based on that. There are companies like Danieli, Codas, Siemens VI, Anilogic, then Danieli I mentioned, sorry, then SMS, ABB. There are many companies who are in the business of steel plant modeling and simulation. And here is a list, small list there. This is an example of Tata Steel simulation work. This basically is in the steel making shop, where there are two bays, and the two bays are occupied by three cranes, two in one is another. The crane is very crucial in the sense that crane carries a steel full of ladle weighing maybe 500 ton, not 500 ton, sorry, about 100, 200 tons sometimes. Those ladles are carried along the bay and then shifted, the liquid steel is shifted from one place to another for processing purpose. And this process goes on, the ladle go on, transferring material from one place to another. Now, to optimize, the crane is a critical resource here, and to optimize crane operation, they have undertaken a simulation where they have firstly made a system design and did 90 experiments after collecting data from the plant, and then applied the technique to optimize the process. They have gained increase the number of hits per day. They call it hits, means one ladle completed means one hit completed. It's like that. Then increase the minimum 2 hits per day they have done, and that's a huge saving. So for not saving, earning really for the steel plant. Modeling has approach two types of approach. One is called agent based simulation and modeling, ABS. This is a bottom up modeling architecture, focuses on modeling individual agents. This is a decentralized simulation architecture, and model inputs are often based on theories and subjective data, and the overall system response emerge from micro level relationship. As against that, the discrete event simulation is more mature method, it is thought. It is a top down approach and focuses on modeling overall system processes in detail. This is a centralized simulation system architecture, and model inputs are often based on objective data, that is data that has been collected from the system or that is being modeled. And this seems to be a better option in general for steel plants. Modeling procedure is this, that we start with a problem statement, objectives, we do system analysis, then do model building and do the coding and other things. Then comes verification, validation. After that, we go for production runs and statistical analysis of data, and then at the end of the day, implementation. The out of which verification and validation is the most important, which can be done in 4 ways. One is self-validation, where a model development team itself makes the decision about validity. Co-validation is where validation process is integrated within the model development process itself. Independent validation is by independent third party, and scoring validation is a scoring model which is used for deciding the validity of the model. Now, application of advanced automation technologies in basic manufacturing processes is a very recent trend in steel plants. What I mean is that the earlier, for example, we have instruments, but they were not smart. So we had to basically do a lot of additional equipment to understand their reading, then modify them and things like that, electrically communicate them in physical terms. We are now using smart instruments which are integrated system of sensing or actuation with communication facility and internal processing, some internal processing where scaling and other things are done internally. Signal conditioning circuit is also included. Human machine interface is a graphical representation of the process where operator can sit and interact with the system processes by means of their input as well as output. They can control any process sitting in a room. You can see the screen of a DCS system on the right below corner. Advances in robotics has many applications in steel plant, particularly in hazardous areas, and steel plant is full of hazardous areas. In fact, I would find very little place if I look for a safe area in steel plant. AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning is picking up. These are new age automation tools, and they are being used in steel plant, not widely. It has been used by many steel plant in many applications, but not very widely as yet. IIoT, Industrial Internet of Things, is again a new enabler, automation enabler for steel plants. In real time, IIoT helps to adapt and change the operations, overall operations. It generates a faster response in terms of actions. Decision making is faster by top management or any level of management for taking various decisions about the process in terms of business decisions, and it has a great potential for quality control, supply chain traceability, etc. Big data is an area where it is very useful for steel plants. Steel plants are geographically spread in multiple locations. Like Steel Authority has about say 10 plants spread all over India. Now, we are unable to coordinate on a day-to-day basis, frankly. We after a few days we look at who has produced what, and then various decisions are taken. It is basically because the data transfer is not very fast. Big data and their analysis can lead to a real-time coordination of various production processes, production planning processes, which are spread over a long geographical distance. Robotic process automation is a very new tool where a software is used basically to create and deploy software robots. Now, this is I am not yet aware of any specific location in India where it is used, but then this I understand this is being used in various other plants all over the world, many places, advanced places. Now, Industry 4.0, these are all Industry 4.0 tools. Now, Industry 4.0 at the end for steel plant means autonomous steel work, as people, product and production facilities are fully connected through IIoT. Now, let us see safety and cyber security in steel industry. These are very important issues as such. Safety, if you ask anybody who work in steel plant, if you ask about safety, he will say steel plants are basically unsafe. Immediately he will say that. That is very true. But then over last 30 years, 40 years, the safety records of all steel plants, including Indian steel plants, have improved dramatically, mainly because of the contribution of automation. What automation has done there? Automation has made systems which has limited approach of the operating personnel to hazardous work. Automatic sampling, then automatic measurements instead of manual measurement has reduced the a worker to go near the process. And if I do not go near the process, definitely I am avoiding safety. I am increasing safety. Designers are also have used various tools to design more safe systems. Cyber security is something which is really an area of concern. Now, if the data is going beyond my boundary, beyond the steel plant boundary to other organizations, then and if it falls in the hand of unscrupulous elements, then it is very easy to conceive that we can have online access and troublemaking by troublemakers. First thing is we can produce wrong things. Someone may tinker with the automation system and produce different quality which is not required. Worse still, someone can deliberately cause an industrial accident. In fact, this has happened in Iran, not in steel plant, but they are in nuclear plant, where America has deliberately sabotaged their part of the plant by this method. There is a process ongoing project going on in Europe where they are doing automatic surveillance of hot rolling area in a steel plant against intentional attack and fault. This is a ongoing project. So these issues require solution before we can say Industry 4.0 can be fully utilized in a steel plant. Now, this is an interesting bit of information in terms of cyber hacking. This has occurred in 1903, more than 100 years back, when the Marconi, the radio pioneer, who wanted to basically show how Morse code can transfer information over a long distance safely. So he wanted to transfer Morse code based signal from London to a place which is 300 miles away. The place where it is to be received, there is a brass projection lantern which is supposed to go on and off as per the Morse code. Now, before the actual demonstration started, the lamp started blinking, and the operator realized that this is doing something different than what the actual Morse code message is supposed to come. And the message that came out read like this: rats, rats, rats. There was a young fellow of Italy who diddled the public quite prettily. Marconi was an Italian. This was done basically by a person called magician, in fact, called Neville Maskelyne, based in UK, and he wanted to show the vulnerability of the whole process. So you can say he is one of the modern, nowadays we have various cyber security researchers. He is one of the pioneer in that field. Now let me go to improved steel plant processes. What are the processes that is now in operation? Many of them which could not have happened without automation being incorporated there. Let's come to blast furnace. In blast furnace, we have now bellless top, which is a quantum jump in blast furnace technology, has complicated mechanism with automation. Today we have 6,000 meter cube blast furnace, about 100-meter tall. This huge size blast furnace cannot be operated because with such huge volume, the stability of blast furnace is very important. Stability of operation of blast furnace just cannot be maintained without automation here, because it is not humanly possible to look into thousands of parameters and then come to a conclusion about the operation. This is quite well operated nowadays. Auxiliary fuel injection is another area which is very interesting. In blast furnace, we inject all sorts of things like coal dust, natural gas, fuel oil, oxygen, plastics, hydrogen, you name it, and it can be injected in blast furnace, and steel can be iron can be produced. How it is possible? It is possible because of advanced thermodynamics and modeling, which are the boon of automation technology. In blast furnace, we insert rugged, reliable probes routinely. These probes are rugged, they don't require maintenance. They go inside and then measure basically temperature and pressure distribution inside the blast furnace is very, very important all along height and or radially also. With all this data available, now expert operators initially used to decipher those data. Now we have developed the modeling and simulation techniques to understand those data. To give an understanding of the extent blast furnace is automation infested, let me use the word, we have around 24,000 IO counts of signals in a blast furnace. Binary signals are of the order of 18,000 to 19,000. Temperature signals in a blast furnace is roughly 1,200 to 1,500. Other analog signals are roughly about 4,000, and weighing signals are about 70. Now this diagram, I am showing two pictures at the top, is not for you to really read. It is not readable. I have put them basically to show that left hand side is a blast furnace of yesterday and right one is what is today. You see in right hand side blast furnace, there are so many projections inside blast furnace. So many things are inside blast furnace. They are all because we are putting a lot of sensors inside the blast furnace to know how it works. Now, parameters that are necessary to monitor in the blast furnace, there are many. Let me not go through them. But then, we are doing so many instrumentation to know what is happening inside. And various model names are here to indicate what all happens, what all things we are doing with the modeling of blast furnace. Now, I will show some interesting sensing elements in blast furnace. Now, in blast furnace, we charge coke and iron ore from top. Now, when you charge this material, sound is produced, and someone experimented with a sound, monitoring the sound outside the top of blast furnace and came out with the signals that you're seeing on the black screen. The coke produces less amplitude signal, and the ferrous material produces higher amplitude signal. Their signature is also different. So by analyzing, signal analysis of the signals, by signal analytical techniques, we come out with the time and kind of quantum of coke or charge is being made, for ferrous charge is being made. So this is a very valuable information, and now we in a very non-intrusive manner we are able to know this. Top gas measurement is now done by sonic pyrometry, where we are using the principle of temperature dependence of sound velocity. Imagine, I have never imagined such a thing is possible. That is being done. This is raceway. Raceway is, in that middle region of blast furnace, lower middle region, there is a tube through which we insert high temperature gas air at very high velocity. Now, the air forms an envelope inside the blast furnace that is known as raceway, and the envelope depth is known as raceway depth. This raceway depth is measured now by using microwave technology, and this raceway depth has very important implication for blast furnace operation. Now it is possible to measure and come out with the actual figure. So you can see the kind of instrumentation which are done to make a blast furnace operational. In coke ovens, again, there are very new automation things that are utilized. Real-time coke pushing plan itself is now modeled, because coke oven operation is basically a scheduling process, and it's complicated scheduling. Batches of various ovens work together, they are charged together, they are discharged in a bit of difference from one another, and it goes on like that. So there is a model now for the pushing and charging and pushing plan. Then there is heating control, which is again a batch process. Now it is being controlled by even fuzzy logic. Then single oven pressure control, which was a dream maybe 20 years back, now it is the reality, which saves 90%, which reduces 90% of emission in a coke oven, and coke oven emissions are serious. The height of coke oven has increased to 8 meters, basically because we have now more automation which can control such huge coke ovens. Controlling the oven is really very difficult. Single chamber pressure control, as I mentioned, is now possible with many instruments, reliable instruments operating. And coke oven, through coke, we lose a lot of heat. Now that heat is being recovered now using coke dry quenching system, where nitrogen is used as a cooling agent, and this heat, recovered heat, is run basically a turbine. Then alignment of coke car, guide car is another very severe hazardous area, which is now can be done very easily with automation. In steelmaking is another area where tremendous development has taken place. Pre-treatment is the work where after a blast furnace we do pre-treatment and then send it for steel making. Now in pre-treatment we remove sulfur, silicon, phosphorus, etc. Vacuum furnaces are required there, and they cannot operate without automation. Dynamic endpoint control in blast furnace, in basic oxygen furnace (BOF) combined with combined blowing and high speed blowing is possibility, just because automation can really operate there. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible really. We get far better control on steel composition. We reduce tap to tap time. We require, of course, complex online instruments and the models. Secondary refining technologies use a lot of facilities, AOD, VOD, etc., where extensive additional processing is done for refining of the steel to get proper properties, and they are possible only because automation is there. Now let us see the new instruments in steel making. This is very interesting. We now have measurement of, in the steel ladles, processing ladles, inside there are refractory lining. Now how much refractory has eroded during the process is important to know, otherwise there will be a leak through the body of the vessel. So measurement of refractory lining wear is now done by laser very accurately. There is a image there in the next slide. Off-gas temperature and composition is now done by Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy. Spectroscopy used to be offline process. Now it has become online. We use mid-infrared emission spectroscopy for off-gas temperature. Another very latest technology. Then detection of steel slag using infrared. Now in the image below, dark image where you are seeing two streams, the left-hand side stream is the IR image for steel flowing, and right-hand side image is the IR image for slag flowing. So you can see that image analysis can tell very clearly that slag has started flowing, so you have to stop the tilting of the converter to stop the tapping. So automatic decision for stopping the tapping process can be done using the image analysis here. Then we have very other microwave ladder for slag emulsion measurement. Then electrochemical sensors are used for FeO content. Radio wave interferometry is used for metal slag interface. There are many sensors. This is that erosion of refractory lining done by identified by laser equipment, laser measurement system. This is basically in steel making. The technique of dynamic control was developed in 80s, but then it was not precise because lot of information was not available, and that's why control was not possible properly. Now we have full control over the dynamic process, dynamic blowing process of the basic oxygen furnace, because we have now lot of information available online for all the parameters. There are various models. I will not go into the names even. There are mass energy balance, twin support vector regression systems are used, charge model. Now various companies have now got various model and simulation techniques for various steel making processes, and they are using in many steel plants. In continuous casting, originally this process, continuous casting, actually eliminated ingot rolling. That is one of the main advantage it had. Now this dramatic change has been brought about because of introduction of caster of various, for producing various shapes. Now here, if you see their expert system and other systems are regularly used. I am not going describing this thing. There are various measurement and other things mentioned here for a continuous casting machine. Again, there are various controls mentioned here for from turn dish to mold to secondary cooling, then cutting. There are various control functions. In fact, casting machine is a place where complete control can be done without much problem. Rolling is a process which is most amenable to control and modeling and control. There are many models and there are many controls that are required for hot strip rolling. And you can see a wire rod being produced here, wire rod mill, which is a very fast mill. 430 km/h is the speed, maximum speed, which is faster than the fastest F1 car. Now we have at this speed online thermomechanical treatment. Can you think of it? At this speed, we are controlling the thermomechanical property of the material. There are many models which really make it possible. Cold rolling is traditionally more complicated than hot rolling in terms of control. The reason is hot rolling finish is not that important, and then surface properties are also not that important. But in cold rolling, the product is going finally to the customer, so you have to be very clear about the properties, surface quality, defect free it should be, and then there are many other requirements. But then that's why cold rolling models for cold rolling mill have come up much earlier than hot rolling mills, and now cold rollings are much more sophisticated in terms of their automation and control. Skin pass mill, which is the last stage of cold rolling process. Let us go into the energy, environment and asset management in a steel plant. Energy consumption in steel plant has reduced to about 50% on an average all over the world in last 40 years. So you can imagine the amount of improvement that has been done. Actually, there are many shops in steel plant like coke oven and then rolling mills and blast furnace where energy is consumed in a huge manner. All of them are now consuming much less energy. We are also recovering a lot of lost energy, like the CDQ technology, then oven gas recovery. So many recovery systems have been introduced. Blast furnace and BOF energy consumption has also decreased substantially because of automation. Rolling mills are using high efficiency drives nowadays. We are using degenerative burner for furnaces, which have reduced the consumption. Environment wise, steel plant is a problem because steel plant produces a lot of greenhouse gases. It is responsible for 4 to 5% of global CO2 emission, steel plants, and 69% of the CO2 in a steel plant is produced by blast furnace. So what are the roles of automation in environment management in a steel plant? There are two. One is monitoring, transmission and analysis of offending emissions. Another is mitigation technologies, help in mitigation technologies. In monitoring, we have basically advanced sensor technologies, so there is no technical limitation to monitor whatever we want. And then there are a large number of tools available for analysis of data and correlation of those data. So that is also possible nowadays with automation. So with vast online data, we can pinpoint the specific process condition which has resulted in emission. So this is what automation is able to do today. And mitigation wise, we know that reducing emission is a process specific and technology dependent process. Now, steel plant processes, process innovation last 5 decades has given very importance to reduction of emission in every process, and automation is extensively used for mitigating technologies. These are some pictorials about the greenhouse gas emission, their percentages in various places. So I'm not really going through them. Asset management. What is asset management? Physical asset management is a method of obtaining the best value from an asset for the cost involved. Basically, it means we have to do life cycle analysis, design, construction, installation, operation. You have to do a full analysis to understand how we can get the best out of an asset. Interestingly, experience indicate that 30 to 70% of equipment maintenance activity that we do is typically misdirected. It is not cost effective and it is not deterring failures. And this is where asset management come into picture. So what are the tools for doing better? There are root cause analysis, failure mode effect, critical analysis, condition based monitoring, predictive maintenance, proactive maintenance, reliability centered management. There are so many tools for that. Now, ABB is a world leader in asset management, physical asset management, and their asset management portfolio is handled by the automation division. So you can understand that automation has a big role to play in asset management. Asset management tools and strategies are, to name a few, condition-based maintenance management, remote diagnostic services, historical analysis of asset data, IT security, health, safety, environment issues. If you take a motor, now when it starts operating and slowly you will find it start decaying. So vibration builds up, then in course of time there will be oil leak, then there will be noise, etc. So these asset management techniques can find out exactly at what time you have to intervene to ensure that the asset is properly utilized and properly maintained. Now, application of industry in this is the last part, application of industry 4.0 in steel. What are the trends? I'll give you some examples only. POSCO is a South Korean plant where South Korean organization, they have two plants, and one of them, Gangneung Integrated Steel Plant, is considered to be the leader in Industry 4.0 implementation as of today. It is a smart factory connected by AI, IoT, and tons of data in the cloud that teach the system to work by themselves. Postfilm software platform is used to undertake this kind of activity in POSCO. Smart factory analyzes data, sends direction to control settings for an optimized operation. When sensors detect abnormal signals, operators can pinpoint on locations for inspection, physical inspection. The data from individual processes contribute to a digital genome for each plant that passes through the plant. What is the meaning? Meaning is that each plant, let us say that the steel plant is producing, it has a record of the which blast furnace at what condition, when it produced, with what parameters. Steel making has been done under what conditions, rolling has been done under, casting has been done under what conditions. All data are tagged with this plate in terms of record. So anyone trying to know the history of this plate in its making, right from iron making, one can get that. This data helps to identify specific operation and location where a defect in a product occurs. On which shift, on which day, under what condition this has happened. voestalpine is another plant which is also quite ahead in application implementation of Industry 4.0. There is an interesting application in Nippon Steel, where what they have, they are very fussy about safety. So what they have done, they have basically they're trying to predict hazardous situation before they occur in order to become a zero accident workplace. How do they do that? They are the engineers wear a smart hat which has camera, then hazardous gas sensor and accelerometer. Now this is connected GPS wise. So any worker who enters the place which is dangerous, he will come to know at least from the signals. His location will be known to the control room, and control room also will know the signals values and then warn accordingly if he is already not warned. This is the type of work they are doing. Then there are drones for autonomous monitoring of systems, monitoring system where the drone looks after the maintenance aspect, then various any abnormal activities going on or not inside the plant, it can take care of that. Not take care really, it can see and then notify. There is a project, Transparent Product Quality Supervision Industry 4.0, where the purpose is to build a customer supplier collaboration by being transparent about the details of processes which has taken place for a product for a customer. Now at the end, let me come down to some pictorials. This is some picture from the POSCO factory. On the left, you can see a few, on the top there is a control room, and at the bottom this is the shop floor plant. In the plant, you don't see any worker. A few people are there in the control room. That is the kind of system they have. On the right hand side, you can see that relevant data and instruction are available at the shop floor for the maintenance personnel to work when they are there. And lastly, this control room looks like a rocket launching control room of NASA, isn't it? But then this is a monitoring of data in the main control room at the Baotou Steel of China. See where the steel plants have come today. Thank you very much. Hello, madam. Madam, I am finished.
Yes, sir.
So I am over now. How do I ask questions to the? Is there any question for people?
Participants, please discuss if we have any problem, any issue, any confusion. Yes, Dr. K. Bhaskar.
Hello. Hello,
Yeah.
this is Mayank.
Yeah, please.
Sir, how we can calculate the load on PLC or DCS controller?
Please repeat again the question.
How we can control the load, control load on the controller of PLC or DCS?
Control load means, see, the PLC and DCS basically has defined number of inputs and outputs. Okay. Now, with that defined number, whatever signal that comes, it analyzes, it processes, and it gives output in the control output, and then output signal go into the further processing to control a process. So load is never exceeded so far as DCS is concerned. There is no question of load exceeding. I don't know whether I've understood your question properly, but
you may correct. But is there any impact over the control cycle for the load calculation?
Okay. I think you are talking about the scanning period and other things where if any process can.
Because of control cycle is also a very important parameter to calculate the control load over the controller.
Absolutely. You see,
not only for the number of IOs only. I think so. I am just assuming this because of some loop needs the fast action, some loops needs the average action.
Absolutely. Let me put it. I have understood your question now. Basically, what you are saying is that the loop execution time for some processes are slow, some are fast, some are very fast. So how do I take care of that? Isn't it?
Yes, sir. Because of the this is the very important factor over the controller.
Absolutely.
So
Now,
whenever we
yeah.
discuss the load over the controller, this is the one point to be considered for the load calculation.
See, normally what we do is we know we have a process, we have an algorithm, we know how much time the algorithm takes. So these things are known. Okay. Now the thing is there may be a
Yeah.
repeated operation of the algorithm and it may take more time to output. But then the algorithm steps are basically made to work within a cycle which could be small or big. It can be synchronous, asynchronous. There are many techniques. I really do not know in detail all of them. Neither I'll be able to go through them right now, even if I know. So what I'm trying to say is that there are many ways to synchronize or work synchronously or asynchronously, depending on my situation, and then do the job. Some requiring very fast action, some require very slow action, and some may not be really
Yes, sir.
able to produce any output in 5 minutes time and doesn't matter.
Yes, yes. Is a average control cycle.
See, there is every, for example, the scan time, let me put it this way, a scan time for a PLC is 10 milliseconds. Now, what it means? It means that a cycle is completed in 10 milliseconds, and within the 10 millisecond, let us say it has acquired, say, 100 data. 100 data is connected.
Okay.
Now, let us see that suppose it is getting over fulfilled, meaning it is not able to scan everything. What it will do? It will be basically going to additional other data in next scan and then come back to the first set of data in the third scan, like that. In the process,
Yes,
the
sir.
speed of response will be slower.
Yes,
You
sir.
understand?
Okay.
This kind of thing
Okay,
will
sir.
happen. Yeah, this kind of thing
Okay.
will happen, definitely.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anything else?
Anybody else?
Madam, is there anybody else interested?
It is not visible, sir.
What do we do?
Hello? Is there any more question? Okay. So, thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us in this Atal FDP and sharing your expertise with the participants. I hope the participants will get benefited with this session. And you explained each and every details of the steel rolling mill very nicely. Thank you, sir. And thank you once again on the behalf of Department of Tripoli. You please share the slides with the participants because they will have quiz also based on these.
Yeah. Now, do I? What do I do? Do I send you a copy of this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Please send me the
I'll do
copy of your slides so that it can be shared.
slides.
With the
I'll send a
participants.
PDF copy right now to you, which can be easily shared with
Yes,
the
sir. Yes, sir.
participants.
PDF you can send.
Yeah. Okay, that will be done immediately. No problem. Anything else, madam?
No, sir.
Okay, then can I thank you profusely? Hello.
Hello.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anybody has a question?
No. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, participants,
Thank
for
you, sir.
listening patiently to whatever I have
Thank
told. I
you
don't
very
know
much,
whether
sir.
I have made any sense to all these things, but anyway, thank you very much for being
Thank you,
patient.
sir.
Thank you, madam.